facing the police every single day.
A speaker card, again, they're available at the back of the room. I have a stack of them here right now. I'll go through them. But again, if you do plan on speaking, you need to fill out a card. The first person is going to come up this evening, Miles Weitzman. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. I know you guys have done an exhausting job reviewing the groundwater situation that we have from the septic systems and that kind of stuff over the years. But I'm not here to complain about or have issue with installing the sewer system. I do have an issue of the way we're funding it. And you know, when you're, I get to get a little bit nervous being up here, so excuse me. You guys originally put together 5-page one. Yeah, sewer expansion project initial assessment resolution. You guys are familiar with that. And on page, starting at page 7. I'm sorry, you guys. Under section 1.0.3, on page 8, under paragraph C, you put in there, pursuant to the Smart Charlotte 2050 comprehensive plan, the county should develop a cost-effective sewer program with the intent of reducing the impact of pollutions on the natural environment, preserving groundwater quality. And then in paragraph D, it goes on to say, the MSBU have been determined to be a threat to the ecosystem due to contamination and pollution measured in Charlotte Harbor. That's my point. You guys also had an environmental study by the Charlotte Harbor Grand Oceanic Institute. Page 14, if you guys look at the second paragraph, it clearly shows that the septic systems do impact the water quality in the harbor, but the #1 polluter is agriculture. And I just got to ask, I mean, you're going to bill all of us $11,500. How much are you billing these people? They're the #1 polluter. We're a secondary polluter. Nobody here in his short report here, he said, yeah, we're putting 30,000 pounds of nitrogen, X amount of phosphates in the ground, but how much of that is taken up by nitrification? That's the process for which the stuff breaks down. It wasn't in the report. In the environmental reports, the short-term reports that you guys did put out, that we did look at, there's nothing there to indicate to me, because there's a way shorter number of sample points needed over time, even back in like 2015. Some of the samples that were taken then were less than what the samples taken in 2019. So there really was no clear issue there. But there is a clear issue if you look at the reports that you guys ordered from these scientists, clearly shows that the farmers, agriculture is the #1 contaminator, and they're not paying a dime. How is that fair? It says in your assessment here that you thought that was fair and equitable. How is it fair and equitable that we're paying for it? We know it has to be done, but they're not paying a dime. So I ask you, how is it fair and equitable? That's really all I have to say. There's no question the sewer system has to be installed. I mean, these things are old, they're inadequate, the stuff's getting into the groundwater, but we shouldn't have to pay for all of it. I know you guys did a great job finding other sources of revenue, but it still doesn't. How come these guys, the farmers, the agriculture people, don't pay that? Why aren't we taxing the fertilizer people? How many thousands and thousands of pounds of fertilizer are they throwing on their land every year? Nothing in the study. And I guess you guys really haven't done much of an analysis of other ways of groundwater remediation. There wasn't anything about purge system, purge and on-site cleanup of these systems right now. What about current things that are going on? Like, why would anybody build a house, pay $6,000-7,000 for a septic system that they're gonna tear out in 2 years, and pay another $11,000 for, I mean, there's lots of other ways to do this. I mean, you got these stormwater runoff basins. I mean, why not do a Persian clean right there on spot? Try to eliminate. None of that was addressed in any of your reports. I didn't see anywhere in any of your reports the construction of the monitor wells, the gradings of the water flow, any of that. I don't know if it's even available, but I'm going to look into it. None of that stuff was on the project website.
Thank you, Mr. Weston. Thank you very much. Next will be Pat Harris. And again, Bill mentioned you have 5 minutes. When you have 1 minute remaining, the orange light will go on. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you all know that from all the viewpoints in the paper, there have been very good reviews for the sewers, and that's fine. But we all know every story has 2 sides. And tonight, we're going to hear the other side. Sewer overflow causes untold problems. Hundreds of thousands of gallons of water erupt in streets and rivers. We all know that. The volume of spills have risen in 2019. We had over 29 spills, and the volume is significant, 193,175 gallons. These, however, do not include those that are told that have less than 1,000 gallon spills. On April 18th, we had a sewage line break that spilled 160,000 gallons of raw sewage in a retention pond. 41% of these spills are caused by electrical or electronic components, 24 by contractors, and only 3% by sewage pipe failure. How can a county plan more sewers and justify them when you cannot take care of the ones you have? Sewers spill hundreds of thousands of gallons when they fail. Septic systems don't all fail at the same time, and they certainly don't spill 100,000 gallons or more. We still have not seen proof that Spring Lake sewers have even moderately improved water quality. How many studies, if any, have been done? And if there is not at least a 40% improvement, then this is a huge waste of money, better spent replacing aging sewers rather than applying Band-Aids. I'd like to know if others in Charlotte outside Spring Lake area have been paying their MSBU fees. Our systems in the Ackerman area have been monitored for 15 years. The county cannot or will not promise that sewers will significantly improve soil and water in the Ackerman area. New homes are being built with permits being issued for septic systems. And you have the nerve to tell us ours have to go? I don't care how improved they are. A septic is a septic is a septic, and they all perform the same service. Government wants to spend money from we the people. Officials, please remember that government has no money that is not provided in one way or another by the people. And we have the right and the obligation to see that they quit spending money as fast as they can come up with plans to assess or tax us for more of their ideas. You represent the people. Please listen to them. You are harming people in the areas who are living at the top of their means and surviving from day to day. They would have to take a lien. They've been in the paper. I'm sure you've all read cases of it. They'd have to take a lien on their homes or sell their property. Who in their right mind is going to buy a home that has a lien on it? And basically, that's what you're doing when you're paying for this over 20 years. You've got a lien on your home. The other sewer project got a significant discount for coming forward with the money. How come Ackerman doesn't get this? Adding insult to injury, we have an aerobic system that is better than the average septic. And we are being punished and penalized, and if it's true, we're being told we will be responsible for removing the aerobic system. I don't think so. What's the reason? Does it cost more money? Well, there wasn't anything said. It was supposed to be that you remove the septics. If you don't want to spend the money, well, guess what? I don't care to spend money for something I don't want or need either.
Ms. Harris, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Next, I have Bob Mudge. And Mr. Mudge, you'll have 5 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am Bob Mudge, and I reside within the proposed Ackerman MSBU boundary. I'm a retired attorney and practiced law for 30 years in Wisconsin and Minnesota before moving to Port Charlotte in 2001. Last week, I sent a letter to Attorney General Moody and copied all of you. The reason for the letter was to outline my position of the county's illegal use of MSBUs as a funding mechanism for sewer projects. Historically, MSBUs are set up for residents of a designated area to provide services for that area that were small in nature and easily paid for only by the affected residents of the MSBU. MSBUs were never designed to be used for massive capital projects such as these sewers. Since 2012, the county has been on a mission to convert all septic systems located in the county to municipal sewers. The first large residential MSBU sewer project was East and West Spring Lake. Construction costs were estimated to be $17,700,000 to be paid by the MSBU property owners in yearly installments over 20 years. Almost immediately, the project cost went to $27 million. And by May 9th, 2017, it was discussed at a meeting of the Charlotte County Board of Commissioners that the cost had increased to over $36 million, with costs still being incurred to this day. There's a link to a 12-minute video of the meeting in my letter. The discussion was how was this extra $19 million cost overrun going to be paid when the residents were only obligated to pay $17 million. Then Director of Charlotte County Utilities, Gary Hubbard, and Budget Director Gordon Berger told the board that $8.8 million was taken from Charlotte County utility reserves and the balance pulled from all different areas of the county's capital improvement projects to cover the shortfall. Capital improvement projects, as you know, are primarily funded by ad valorem taxes. The reason that I sent this letter to Attorney General Moody with copies to Auditor General Norman and Interim Director of Property Tax Oversight Crehan is due to the complexity of the legal, tax, and accounting issues for a project of this size. I asked those agencies to investigate whether payments made by the county from county funds and Charlotte County utility reserves were legally made to pay the cost of the offsets and overruns incurred in the West Spring Lake Sewer Project. An article in today's paper, which deals with my letter, quotes Budget Director Berger. These projects are paid for by the one neighborhood, which in the case of East and West Spring Lake, plus utility rate payments, plus grants. He says no ad valorem taxes were used to fund the subsidy. In the video I attached to my letter, Berger clearly states that $8.8 million in CCU reserves, along with dollars pulled from all different areas of county capital utility projects, which are ad valorem taxes, were used to pay off the balance. Which of these scenarios are correct? This shows why it is necessary for outside Florida state agencies to review the entire history of the East and West Spring Lake MSBU and to find out what has really taken place in the way of funding and payments. Let me make a records request right now for the CIP payments Mr. Berger referenced in the video. Those records should include the date, the amount, and which CIP funds the monies were taken from. It is my position that given the inquiries I have made, that it would be in the best interest of the county to table this matter until a response is received from the state agencies, either validating your use of MSBUs and the manner of using them to fund the sewer projects or not. You have hundreds of millions of dollars of projects in your long-range plan. It is imperative that if MSBUs are to be utilized, that they are done properly and within the law. I realize that you have a schedule that has to be followed in your MSBU approval process, and that tabling this may very well void the schedule for this year, but it certainly seems worth it to get this right. This is a very complex issue, and certainly one of first impression, which will make all the agencies considerable time for investigation prior to rendering an opinion.
Your time is up. Thank you very much, sir.
I would like to just conclude my letter as part of
Give
it.
that to the gentleman. Thank you, sir. Next, Arthur Grimes. Arthur Grimes. There you go.
On the way.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you.
And again, you'll have 5 minutes.
Is it on? Here.
There you go.
I hit the wrong button here. Hold on. I should know better. Anyway, I missed the festivities last week, by the way, veteran here standing in front of you. I was going to make a script out of this. The cash issue, I think, $11,000, as I understand, is going to come out of their individual owners' funds and so forth. I have a court case here. It's too bad Jeanette's not here today. From 2000, and it's called Key Citizens for Responsible Government versus the Florida Keys Aqueduct. They used a sewer revenue bond, series of sewer revenue bonds to help finance this sort of thing. I could say, take it out of petty cash out of the county, but that might fall a little heavily on some people. I don't really have a dog in this fight, thank you. I don't really have a dog in this fight. I'm up on Cork Tree Circle next to the Oak Hollow property owners. I do have a canal next to me, and I used to be on the board of directors and on the environmental committee. I do know that in studying that sort of thing and being a property manager, that septic systems, for example, if they're nice and new and kept up and so forth, yes, they work just fine. Sewer systems, the same thing. I've read studies in here that say that in Ohio, for example, back in 1984, there was a court ruling there that inherently septic systems, Ohio Supreme Court, are inherently more dangerous to public health than the sanitary sewage systems must be replaced when possible. I suppose that's something of a matter of opinion. If I keep up my home that's now 30 years old, I spend a lot of money replacing things, keeping the air conditioning working, replacing stuff and things like that. Over a period of time, it takes money to keep that thing in somewhat decent condition. It was a brand new piece of cake. That's easy to do. On the other hand, the septic systems, any kind of system that leaches anything into the soil, obviously, can pose a problem. I live next to a canal. And living next to a canal, I've learned in some condos, for example, they just go out and take oil, for example, that they drained out of a car and dump it into the ground. I talked to the state about that, and they said, no, we don't like things like that happening. It leaches into the canals, it leaches in, and it affects the life in the fish and so forth. Now, with that in mind, I noticed too that there's, and I'm not sure, I get the impression that this is, kind of a matter of choice here for some, and I have a law here that I found the other night, 381.00655. The owner of property owning functioning on-site sewage treatment and disposal must connect to the system of the building's plumbing to an available publicly owned or investor-owned sewage system within 365 days. So I'm kind of, confused here at the moment, not having researched this enough yet, about the problem here. I realize this is the only job for you. I was on my board 3 or 4 times before, having made decisions on that board that affect people, including their fines and what they're going to pay for assessments. It's not always a very pleasant thing to do. So with that in mind here, I can see both sides of the argument on this, and I can see people wanting to keep their sewer systems that have had for a long time, Many people have had them for many years, and sewage septic systems have a long history, both in this country and in other countries where they began. We didn't have any septic system not too many years ago. So in this case, to stretch it out, have a decently run sewage system, and be able to keep it up, if they can keep it up, keep it running well, might be a plus. If I had a choice right now between having to spend all the money out to keep my home up, for example, and tie into, one that's paid for by someone else, I think the decision wouldn't be too difficult. So for me, if I had to keep a septic system going for years and put it in and keep it up, I think I might opt for a sewage system that someone else is going to pay for and keep that thing going for me, if they do a decent job at doing that. So, as I say, one of my issues here at the moment is the cash system. If it is at all possible, as I'm understanding it, to be able to use bonds to do this sort of thing, revenue bonds, might be a better idea than what seems to be taken out of the residents themselves. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, Susan Hunt. Susan Hunt. Again, you'll have 5 minutes. Good evening.
Who pays the portion of the MSBU that is not covered by the ratepayers or the taxpayers in the designated areas? Looking back to the Spring Lake sewers and lessons learned, will this MSBU document for our sewers include a clause to bar the price from increasing? You did not include that in the Spring Lake sewers. I would like a guarantee if we're going to be stuck with these things and stuck with $575 a year for 20 years. I would like a guarantee that it's not going to go up. My income doesn't go up. I'm sure 4 of you remember that the people's objection to what we refer to as the blank check clause in the Spring Lake Sewer MSBU. The blank check clause is what we refer to as the means that the Spring Lake sewers could increase the amount of the MSBU if they so chose. That is still in effect in the MSBU. I don't want to have a blank check clause for the government to be able to come back to my pockets if you decide that you need more money for the sewers, or if something should go wrong with them and you need more money and you're going to take it all from us. Please show your concern for our financial situations and include a clause in this resolution stating that our cost will not go over $11,500 for the 20-year period. Give us that modicum of assurance, please. I recall Spring Lake taxpayers were also offered a cash discount if they made a reduced lump sum payment of $7,000. I think it was 90-some residents paid the $7,000 fee if that was allowed to be implemented. As I recall, somebody discovered, oh, oops, the MSBU people all have to pay the same amount. So I'm not certain what ended up really happening with that. But I haven't seen an option for that for us Ackerman taxpayers. Why not? I recall a video about the Spring Lake taxpayers getting the cheapest sewers ever. I recall Director Terry Kuchar saying that the project of the utility department, all their projects always came in under budget. I almost choke. Surely those of you who voted for the Spring Lake sewers can remember how the cost of the project was fluid instead of fixed. Started out, it was going to be a $10 million project. It climbed to $13 million, $17 million, $27 million. The last figure I recall hearing about the cost was that the cost was $36 million. I doubt that was the end. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I doubt any of you will want to admit that the total cost of Spring Lake sewers went up and up and up. Your hearts may have been in the right place, but you couldn't control the total project cost. Do you have a solid cost estimate for the Ackerman sewer project at this time? If not, you shouldn't tie us to something that you're not sure about. And I urge you to approve a revision of the MSBU document tonight, if you're going to pass it, to never increase the $11,500 fee. Put something in it that fixes it. You don't have plans ready yet. 90% of the plans for the Ackerman area, but the rest of the plans aren't ready yet. How do you know how much it's going to cost you? You're guessing. They're guesstimates, and they are not estimates at this point in time. You have no bids. I remember the shock when the first bids came in for some other projects in the county, and projects had to be revised. On another topic, has the statute been altered regarding the aerobic septic systems? Are people going to be allowed to keep their aerobic systems? And if they have, why are they going to be required to remove them? Apparently you want them to remove them. But why are you giving them an extra hardship over removing their septics, and you're going to crush our tanks for us? Why is it that Charlotte County is allowing 2 new subdivisions to be built with septic systems, but we have to pay the utility departments to destroy ours and maintain sewers? This doesn't seem to be equitable to the citizens. I have a whole lot more I could say. You've heard it all before. These were the new things. Thank you.
Thank you. Stanley Park. Stanley. And you will have 5 minutes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I think I stood basically here 5 years ago, and I started out with a bunch of tax certificates in my hand and said, why aren't you genuine with these people and say it's all about money, utilities, deficit, and debt? Okay, I heard Terry Kuchar give a presentation where 25% of a pie chart was going to interest on the debt to utilities that the previous commission back in the 90s bought. This is very offensive to me. Be honest, we have a problem. Don't lay it off on DEP and a manufactured agreement with the Manchester Lock and Acton Waterway. 5 years ago, I defied you, the county, to prove to me that my septic system is polluting the canal across the street. Why did I do that? I've had it pumped 3 times in 15 years. I'm a 20-year resident. The last 2 times it was pumped, it was certified functional fine and been pumping per the pumper. Okay? This is, and that's 2 different pumpers. This is ludicrous. On top of that, do I sound incensed? I am. I believe you, the county, the government, is affecting my constitutional right. You are going to charge me to crush and destroy my personal property that was licensed, platted by State Health Department back in '91 when the house was built. You're going to destroy it and then force me to pay to hook up to a sewer system that I don't want nor need. We are in a very underutilized area. Okay? A 3-bedroom, 2-bath pool home with 2 people. We have neighbors that are snowbirds, Canucks, Canadians, Europeans. They're not here but 3-4 months of the year, maybe. They're not even in rental programs. This is obscene, what you're doing. Why didn't you put this thing to a vote initially? On West Spring Lake, you did. You put out cards. My wife, Susan Hutt, went and photographed the results because nobody wanted to publish it. It was anti-sewer, pro-septic. And if you look at the numbers of malfunctioning septic tanks, it was very, very small. Very small. Why don't you go and enforce septic inspection and mandatory pumping per state health code across all septic systems? And guess what? Before you implement the sewer, go measure what your pollution level is, because I have not seen any figures that make any sense or any metrics that can support your abusive waste of my money, okay? My money, their money, people's money, to put in something they don't want nor need. But what is the constitutional right you have to mandate me to destroy my personal property and then tax me? And it's a tax. This is all about money. Why don't you be honest? Go out and say, hey, our utility is mismanaged and beyond repair financially, okay? Unless you just implemented 3 years, 7% compound. And I guarantee you, when that 3 years is up, you guys, I know you're gonna vote 5%, 5%. Add that up, okay, over a water bill, okay? Now you're gonna put in a sewer system and charge me 5,000 gallons in and 5,000 gallons out plus a base fee. You're gonna double plus my water bill. You are not honest with your constituency and the taxpayer. Thank you very much.
Amen.
Next speaker is John Kasey. And you will have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. I don't know whether you'll pay much attention to me because I believe I went to a meeting 4 or 5 years ago downtown somewhere talking about the same subject, and I'm going to tell you some of the same things over again, and I agree with most every speaker that's been here tonight. But then, who knows, I'm just a Canadian immigrant that's been here about 25 years, so that may not count much. Anyhow, the first speaker stole my thunder. And it'll shorten it up a little. I hope I don't go over. And anyhow, the agriculture is the main polluter, I believe, here and in most of the states and in the world, as far as that goes. And to just start off, just to give you an example, it takes 600 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of milk and 2,500 gallons of water to make 1 pound of hamburger. Plus all the farting and shitting and everything else that the cows do. And the fertilizer and everything.
Pesticides.
This is what's polluting the river upstream. And you want us to fix up and improve or replace our septic tanks, which I see some merit to it. I don't say it's wrong, but you're hitting the wrong end of the cow. Do that first, then take your tests, and then come to us with some good things. And if you can afford Netflix, and if you can't, call me. Go to get a movie there called Cowspiracy and watch it. You may learn something. And it'll be good for your entertainment also. The other thing is, talking about the septic tanks, I haven't wiped my bum in 15 years. And I guarantee it's cleaner than every one of you, or likely almost everybody in the room here. Seeing you've got around 50 pounds of water pressure in the water, that's what I wash it with every time I go. And if you need help, call me again. Go to Amazon, and for $30 you can buy a bidet that fits under your toilet seat, and you can likely find a plumber friend that'll install it for 10 or 15 bucks. And think how many trees you'll save, and how much, even if you put sewers in, you don't have this bloody toilet paper to put up with. I mean, it's such a simple thing, but, you know, you can't think of it. I used to be an oil field contractor in Canada. And when I see you building Edgewater there for 3 years or whatever it was, recently around the harbor, around the pool, the parking lot, the way you take so long and waste money, it's disgraceful. If this is the way you guys are building sewers, you guys should all be fired.
Amen. Amen.
And I think I give the county commission to finance a toilet bidet for every house in the county.
Amen.
And don't charge it to their taxes.
Yes.
Amen.
Next speaker is Mark Stevens. Again, sir, you'll have 5 minutes. Good evening.
Hard to beat that performance. I came here mainly because I am from the Spring Lake area. I have come down here and we were discussing that. And we had conflicting views on whether we needed sewers or we should have our septics. And amazingly enough, that same discussion is still going on. And nothing really has been brought to anyone's attention that supports either side. But yet my water bill has gone up by over double. I have an assessment on my home. I get to hear the beautiful sound of a vacuum station every time someone flushes and it starts to build pressure. The thing gives you this good. It's great to hear that, and then you get the nice odor that comes from that. Never had that with my septic system. What bothers me, I think, most of all, is each one of you were elected by us, the people, to represent us and our beliefs and feelings. Unfortunately, we all come out here and I look at the room here and say, you know, that's a pretty good assembly of your constituents. But we're not being heard. And that's the part that bothers me more than anything else. We need to move that's satisfaction. I mean, we were at the other facility up in Murdoch for that last hearing. We did the Spring Lake thing. And you're my commissioner, and we must have had, I don't know how many speakers and how many different things. But you know what? You still voted for the doggone sewer. Well, so much for representing me, and I appreciate that. But to say the least, it's going to be kind of hard to get a vote from me. And we are all voted, and you voted in for us. And you're representing us, and you're spending our money, and we're paying you. So it's real important that, please, give us that much consideration and respect as we give you. You haven't done all bad jobs, trust me. I mean, you're probably the most thankless job in the county. It's very rare that you're going to get someone come and say, hey, you're doing an outstanding job. But by the same token, you don't want to have someone come up there and say, hey, how come I say one thing and you do another thing? You're supposed to be taking care of me, and you're not. So, for the people of Ackerman, all I can tell them is, look forward to having your prices go up considerably. Look forward to having, you know, these unpleasant noises on every other lot where they put these little vacuum stands. And also make sure you go out and vote for the people that are going to represent you and listen. That's the key word, listen. So I'll leave it to your judgment, but I unfortunately think that it's already a prejudged thing. And I hope it's not. That you'll give it some more consideration and go ahead and maybe say, you know, maybe there's a different way to do this. And save costs and save money. Because right now it's not happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Pete Wilson. Good evening, sir. 5 minutes.
I'd like to begin by saying that in theory I support your idea about getting rid of septic tanks and putting in a central sewer system. But I have 4 questions that I would like the answers to. The first one is, when will the construction of the Ackerman sewer project begin and when will it be completed?
We don't respond during the public hearing, but people will take notes and after the hearing try to address your questions.
I just like to have that. The second thing is, why is there no provision in there to compensate homeowners who have a septic tank that is currently certified to be okay? When you institute this project, you're going to come in and crush our septic tanks. Why is there no compensation if I have a properly working septic tank? That's question number 2. Number 3, How did we determine that 2020 was the year we're going to start assessing homeowners to pay for the septic, for the sewer system, when you don't have a beginning date or an end date and you can't tell us? If I go into a dealership and buy a car, or a store and buy any product, I pay for that product and I get that product. Even in the case of a car, where I go in and put it on time payment, when I walk out of that dealership having completed that deal, I have the car in my possession. Why is it that we're not waiting until you deliver the sewer system to start paying for that sewer system? And the last one, how long has Charlotte County been planning to install a sewer system, a central sewer system? I can answer that question for you because in 1968, that was put out as a general plan. Charlotte County was going to be a planned community with a central sewer system. So at least since 1968, past commissioners and present commissioners have been in the process of trying to plan for this, which includes budgeting for this. And therefore, I bring up the question, what the heck are you guys doing? If you've known since 1968 you were going to do this, why are you not budgeting for this? And why are we now suddenly being asked to pay for a sewer system that hasn't been properly planned for? You should have known about this and it should have been done years ago. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is David Becker. Good evening, sir. 5 minutes.
Does anyone need to sign in here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, here we are again. Nobody at this meeting wants polluted water, but there's no definitive proof that sewers are better than septics. The evidence is to the contrary. The Charlotte County sewer system takes all the sewage and concentrates it while wasting millions of gallons of water. When there is a spill, it's a large concentrated amount of sewage. On the other hand, when a septic system doesn't function properly, there may be some leakage, but seldom is it completely raw and unfiltered, and it's a very small amount. An article by the Sun, Sentinel, describes more than 2.5 million gallons of raw sewage spewing into South Florida's neighborhoods and waterways from government sewers. The sewage killed fish, forced the shutdown of drinking water wells, and resulted in at least 3 beach closures. State environmentalists blame most of the breaks on failure to maintain and replace old pipes. Why doesn't our Sun newspaper report on our many, many spills? According to the Florida Times-Union in Jacksonville, just this year, more than 900,000 gallons of raw sewage flowed into Sarasota Bay from sewers, not from septics. Jacksonville, Daytona Beach, each spilled 250,000 gallons of human waste from sewers. According to a Gatehouse Media analysis of state environmental data, deteriorating sewers have released 1.6 billion gallons of wastewater, much of it polluting the state's estuaries and oceans. More than 370 million gallons of that was completely untreated. 100,000 gallons of sewage spilled in Hardy County, just upriver from us. Venice, Florida, 449 gallons of sewage just north of us. Manatee County, 70,000 gallons spilled, again, just north of us. Keep in mind southern flowing Gulf Stream. 700,000 gallons spilled into Stevenson Creek in Pinellas County. The septics had just been converted to the new sewer system just a few years before that. In a series of other spills on the same rainy day in Pinellas, 614,000 more gallons of sewage. Manatee County, 75,000 gallons discharged into the Manatee River. Pinellas County, 93,000 gallons. Same rainy day, another area of Pinellas County, 85,000 gallons. 93,000 gallons raw wastewater down in Port Florida. These are only a few examples of pages of government sewer spills. The Charlotte County Utilities Director suggested fixing 1% of the current sewer system per year in our county and was told by the commissioners, I think it was too aggressive or to soften it. Yeah, soften it. There's no way Charlotte County will have the money to maintain new sewers. There's no way. They can't maintain the old ones. A broken, unmaintained sewer system is far worse than a few failing systems. Most people actually take care of their own septics. The following is a very small selection of evidence from DEP reports that sewers are bad for Charlotte County taxpayers and the environment. I'm only giving you a very small sample of hundreds of spills in Charlotte County. Some spills I'm sure go unreported. Keep in mind the temptation of government officials to underestimate as well. For a long time, the sewer lift station at McGuire Park would overflow and spill in a major way every time we had a strong rainstorm. There'd be pumper trucks at the park every time it rained hard. Who knows how many thousands upon thousands of gallons of sewage flowed into the lake, maybe 200 feet from the pump station, and surrounded by sewers. And it was one of the worst environmental fiascos tested by Atkins anywhere from what I read. During Hurricane Irma, an estimated 500,000 gallons of reused water and 122,000 gallons of raw sewage was spilled from sewers in Charlotte County. Tamiami Trail, 10,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from government sewers. Coliseum Boulevard, I think somebody mentioned it, 160,000 gallons from a sewer main. Burnstore Road, 17,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from government sewers due to a leak. Port Charlotte, 12,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from government sewers due to a line break. Key Creek, 10,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from government sewers due to a blockage. Edgewater Drive, 30,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from government sewers due to a line break. Alcan Boulevard, 14,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from government sewers due to a line break. Harbor Boulevard, 8 to 10,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from a line break. Harbor Boulevard, 15 to 25,000 gallons of raw wastewater spilled from a line break not far from a canal. Tamiami Trail, 5 to 8,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from a power outage. Lake Worth Boulevard, 6,000 gallons of raw wastewater spilled from a pump failure. Biscayne Drive, 5,000 gallons of raw sewage spilled from a line break. Port Charlotte, 5,000 gallons of raw wastewater spilled from government sewers due to heavy rainfall. When it rains here, the sewers just go crazy. Olean Boulevard, 5,000 gallons spilled from Charlotte County government sewers.
Mr. Kasey.
Pinehurst Road, 38,000, 3,000.
Your time is
It
up.
just keeps going on and on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Lauren, and I apologize, Lauren. Swear. You passed. Very good. Just the record show.
Oops, sorry.
She has chosen not to speak. Next speaker, Kim Bolinski. Good evening. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. My name's Kim Bolinski, and I just had a couple questions. I know that you don't answer, but I do have a really nice new septic system that I put in. I had to get permitted for it. It is a aerobic treatment unit, so I paid twice as much to have it put in, and I am required by your laws to have it inspected twice a year, which I pay for. And so I know that I'm not causing any damage, so I'm wondering if, again, there's going to be any leeway in there as to people who have new sewers, and I know this has been mentioned before, but I do want it on the record. In listening to all of this too, just switching lanes a little bit, just in my basic observation, it just seemed that it's not an environmental issue that we have here. It is definitely a financial issue, with Charlotte Utilities being the main problem. There hasn't been any research that I've seen. The research that I have seen has been shoddy at best for the reason why we're doing this. Anytime you're trying to fix a problem, I think that you do a little bit more research, especially if you're going to spend $30 million of other people's money. And I don't believe that the research, I know that if you had a project that you were paying $30 million for out of your pocket, I believe that your research would have been a whole lot better. And like the gentleman here at Spring Lake, you are generating revenue. This is a money generating revenue for Charlotte County. And, at some point, I think I would have more respect for you if you just said it, because that's exactly what it is. I get it. You don't have any money. I get it. I understand. But for you to say that it's an environmental issue and to come up with this, I'm not buying it. Yeah. But again, with the ATUs, if you could look into that. And I did see in one place, 2 different places where you were going to pay for it to be removed, and in another place where I was going to have to pay for it. So if I want to know why I have to pay for an ATU to be removed, one that's twice as expensive and more efficient, if you were, concerned about environmental purposes. And if that is the case, is the county going to remove it? Am I going to be responsible for removing it? There definitely needs to be more information on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Ralph DeSoray, something, I apologize. Caesar? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. I will be very brief. The reason I came here this evening is to get clarification on certain issues and some questions answered. And I'm understanding that you're not here to answer any questions. So part of my issue and the reason why I'm here has been addressed already. I too have an aerobic treatment system on my property. And I've heard and I'm reading that I would be responsible to crush and or remove that system when the new septic or the new sewer system goes in. So is that true? And if so, why? What separates me from a normal septic system?
We will take that question down, and like I said, after the public hearing, we'll attempt to answer questions from staff.
Tonight or?
Yes, tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Point of order, sir. Sir, ask all your questions now. If you have, that's great. Just ask all your questions when we close the public hearing, then we'll answer the questions. Tonight. So if you have other questions.
Well, there's one other thing. I read somewhere if I didn't fill out I forget what it's called, then I would have to pay for hookup or something. Is that? I don't have my information. I do not have multiple lots, no.
Point of information, it's an on-lot requirement, so you have to sign a document that allows us to work on your property to do the connection. That's all that really entails.
Okay.
You have to have the right to access to by you.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Next, Christine Brown. Good evening.
I guess I'm in agreement with everybody else in the audience. I don't know that there is a scientific, some people say that sewers are better, but if your septic system needs to be pumped, you know it. You're gonna pump it. And guess where they take the stuff to? To the sewage treatment plant. It gets there by a different means. You can't go with a bad septic system. There is a personal motivation to make sure that it's working. There are also very good products. One of them is Green Pig, which is a, excuse me if I'm nervous, it's an excellent bacteria which eats the solids. It's very inexpensive and keeps septic systems working well. The other thing is, when you have a septic system, you're dealing with a very small amount of pipe, maybe 20, 30 feet, 2 or 3 joints. Everybody knows that things fail at joints. Now you're going to pump this sewage with electricity through hundreds of miles, I guess it's hundreds, I don't know, but it's very far to the treatment plant. Every one of those joints has the potential to eventually leak, and some of the old piping is of a substandard older product, which again can break and leak. The septic system is far better. Also, you are putting everything to one point. You are causing people to destroy their systems. What happens if there is an attack on the United States? What happens if there is a terrible storm? The electricity is out for a long, long time. We can't go to the bathroom. Everything is gonna back up into people's tubs and sinks, and it's gonna cause diseases. It's taking away American independence and making us vulnerable. You should not put all your eggs in one basket. Plus, it is very difficult for people to manage what nature does naturally and freely for us. You say these houses are old and the septic systems. Well, obviously in the 60s, we didn't have the pollution we have now. Maybe some of the measurements are coming from the spills that the other people are talking about. How do you know that it's from septic? I think septic is the greatest thing in the world, and you should not make America vulnerable by putting all of our waste to the wrong place.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Marilyn Johnson. Good evening.
Thank you very much for hearing me. My name is Marlene Duncan, of course, and I'm an alien resident, which means I come from Canada and I'm only here for 6 months of the year. I chose Port Charlotte because the people, the prices were manageable. We have a wonderful neighborhood. I'm one of 8, we are one of 8 alien residents in our neighborhood. Some of us are only here for 2 months of the year. I don't think there's a great impact on the environment because we are only here for a short time. Filling our septic would be quite a stretch. We love America, basically from the Constitution, by the people and for the people. And we brag all the time that America's a good place to live. I think the point I want to make is being from Canada and from a sewer system and coming to a septic system, it was quite a learning curve. I had to learn that there's things you can't do. You have to be more mindful of your system. Paper you use, excuse my language, but if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. And in the city, the sewer people, they've done all kinds of things down the sewer system because they pay for it, they don't care. So I think what we really need to look at here isn't really that bad. Like, we may have to go back to basics someday. Are we going to do that with the sewer system? Probably not. So that's my point. I think you need to let people be, don't insult their intelligence. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it a long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Gary Gualtieri. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Commissioner. I'll keep this short because I think most people have stated pretty much what my beliefs are, and I'm not looking to rehash the information. My thoughts are this: just like the last speaker, my wife and I moved down here to Port Charlotte. It's a beautiful area. It's a little piece of heaven. So I understand you wanting to keep the waters clean, everything else. But if you look out at the constituents here, most people here, we are either fixed incomes or have limited resources, and it ends up creating an unnecessary financial burden when you turn around and look at the money that you're looking to levy on us, whether it be annually over 20 years, or if we're offered the option of one lump sum payment, which would be difficult probably for most people to come up with. With that being said, you look at how much are the costs going to be, and the question comes up from everybody here, we don't have a total cost. We have an assessment that we believe it may run into this area, so we're coming up with an estimate. We can't write the blank check. It's difficult. You have people that come down here and they want to live, and they retired here, and when you put on the hardships where we have a lien or assessments placed on us, even if we can't afford to stay and we want to try to sell, it'll be much more difficult to sell the house once there's a lien on it. And so you have to look at the folks that are here. They are the taxpayers. They're constituents. Please listen to them. And people always talk to me about on the topics at hand. And the bottom line is the elections are up again in 2020 and 2022. And that'll be right in the midst of this project where most people will be in the middle of paying the assessments. And I'm sure that will be a topic at hand when it comes down to voting and which route they choose to go. Thank you very much for hearing me.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, Robert McCracken. Good evening, sir. Sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Commissioners. Robert McDuffie. I just want to say that after pray for you. I do. I'm not kidding. My faith and my belief says to pray for those who rule over you. And I say that very genuinely. And I love you. You know, I know most of you don't really know me, nor do I know you. Just a figure and a face. But I spend most of my time in Africa. And these things are extraordinary luxuries that we're talking about. Most of the places where I spend most of my time, I don't even have the luxury of electricity, much less a septic tank or a sewer, as do not more than 5 million people in the world today. We are extraordinarily rich in this country. I am amazed at how much wealth surrounds me when I come back here. It's always a culture shock to come back to a country where you can just step into a Walmart 24/7 and everything is at your fingertips on the internet. Delivered within 2 or 3 days, usually for free. I just want to share with you something that I learned from the Rotarians, which are all over the world and seek to make a difference just like I do, just like you do in your positions. It's called the 4-question test. The first question is it true? At the end of the day, there's nothing that's ever been done in darkness that has not been brought to light. The truth is so important. One day, every one of us is going to take our final breath. It's so important to live in the light of the truth. The truth is so much easier to remember the next day than a lie. The second question, is it fair to all concerned? Another way of saying it is the way that my Lord Jesus said it. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Not do unto others as they did unto you. I try to live my life that way, to do unto other people what I would want them to do unto me. That's a proactive thing, not a reactive thing. If you look at my bank account, I work very diligently in the businesses that I own here and abroad so I can give away the majority of everything that I own. In fact, I have very few material possessions just because I love people and I want to better their lives. Is it fair? The third question is, does it build goodwill and better friendships? I hear a lot of bitter voices here in this crowd because they're upset, because they don't really believe that elected representation works. They want you to hear and they want to know that they've been heard. Just like you want to know that I've heard you as another person, not as an elected official. And finally, is it beneficial to everyone concerned? Not just in the short term. I look at Florida, maybe you don't know this about me, but my kids are 6 generations this community. Ironically, great-granddad was the first plumber here at Curly Ewald Plumbing. Just as a side note. And I look at the infrastructure of the state of Florida, and I think I don't need a wall to keep people from coming from Central South America. I think we need a wall to keep people from coming to Florida. This ecosystem is failing very rapidly, and we're in a state of denial. We're flush with cash today, but what costs tomorrow? I remember the Johnny Mitchell song, we paid paradise and we put up a parking lot. What are we really leaving for the future? Yeah, I'm not anti-capitalism. It is free market capitalism that supplies for all the mission work that my wife and I do, over 100 Bible schools, orphans in several African countries. Tonight when you go to bed and you kiss your children goodnight, wife goodnight, just remember that everybody here is not just the people you serve, their moms and dads too. The grandparents, the children. At the end of the day, they just want you to do unto them as you want done unto you. God bless you all.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, I believe is Renee.
Hey, Sheriff County, this is Sheriff County COPWATCH. I am using any video here with under fair use if you have criticism, reporting, teaching, etc. And please donate. I do not make money from YouTube, and there are different ways to donate in the video links. Thanks.